Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. My name is Juan Pablo Ugarte. I'm from Argentina, currently living in the US. I've been working or involved in GNOME since early 2000s. Most of my work first started contributing to Glade, Glade 3. And nowadays, for the past few years, I've been working on Kambalache, which is just the new version of Glade for GTK4. So, all right. So that's enough. We can start. So Kambalache. All right. So Kambalache. What's Kambalache? Kambalache is what you see is what you get tool. It's an IDE to create user interfaces for GTK3 and GTK4. And it has one simple goal: spare you from having to write XML by hand. I never liked XML, so that's why I work so hard making a tool so you don't have to write XML. And the intended audience is a developer that are already familiar with GTK. So if you are starting, I really advise for you to follow GTK tutorials, get to know the basics of the toolkit, write some XML by hand, some small examples so that you can understand how everything is put together. And once you have a basic understanding, Kambalache or Glade will make much more sense. Okay, so in this presentation, I'm going to do something a little bit different than what I've done in the past. In the past presentation, I just enumerate all the new features that I added in the past year. But this time, what I want to do is showcase, make a little application and showcase how everything gets together using Kambalache. So what kind of application should we do? My first idea was something like a video player or a small web browser, something that is visually rich and that we can see something nice in the screen. So I asked Mastodon, and most people decided that it was a good idea just to make a web browser. I also used the new feature in Kambalache where I can ask users for polls, and the results are similar. So that's what we're gonna do today. But the focus is not. This is not a tutorial for programming on how to make an application, but just how to use Kambalache from start to having something that works. Okay, so we're gonna do a very simple web browser. We're gonna use WebKit WebView widgets. By default, we're gonna load the Planet GNOME website. We're gonna add a home button and some navigation buttons to go back and forth. Okay, so let's start with a project from scratch. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is add a project name. We're gonna name it Planet GNOME. We're gonna add an app ID. And we're gonna store it in project. It's gonna be a Python application. But with template, we're gonna use the GNOME application template, which creates all the plumbing for you. It creates a small GTK application with all the resources that you need, and everything should work. So let's create the project. And as you can see here, we have the source code. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So we have the source code, and we see here we have a window and the UI XML for that window. And if we run this, we get a nice Hello World application. All right, so now that we have our project, let's move on and let's create a Kambalache project for this application. So the first thing we're gonna do is create a new project. Let's call it Planet GNOME. This is gonna be the name of the Kambalache project file, and we're gonna store it. Let's choose here the root directory of the source code of the project we just created, and we choose GTK4. Okay, so let's create the project. Now here by default, Kambalache creates a UI file with the same name where you can start adding your widget. But today we're gonna do something different. We're just gonna remove this, and we're gonna enable. So this is a blank project that only has GTK toolkit, so you can choose the settings of the project and enable the different libraries that you want to use in your project. So we're gonna use Adwaita. And now we have Adwaita widgets also present in the different choosers. So we could start creating files right away, or we can import the project that is already being created. So for that, I added, in the past few months, I added a new import directory feature where you just select the root of your project, or where your Glade project file is, and then just click import, and it will scan all the files, and it will load everything that Kambalache supports, being all the UI files. For example, here we have a shortcut window and the main window for the application, and we also have the G resources that are used to include these UI files in the project. All right, so we added that. So let's remove this, and we're gonna add as the content of the main toolbar view. We can add a web view. All right, we need to enable WebKit first. Let's enable WebKit here, and let's add a web view. Okay, so this is a WebKit web view by default in the workspace in Kambalache. When you create a web view, it just load some HTML, so you can enter a URL just to test. For example, we can have some UI test. So you can run. You can see how everything works. So this is the web view. Let's put a name to it. Let's call it web view. Save the project, and that's it. We can move on. Okay, so the first step, what we're gonna do? First, we're gonna load Planet GNOME by default. Add a home button and use a signal callback to connect to that home button so that we can go back to Planet. And also, then we're gonna show how to implement an action. Do the same thing, but with an action. All right, so here we are back again in Kambalache with the project. Let's just add a button here. So one thing to mention here, for example, how we gonna add a button here. By default, Kambalache works with placeholders. This is when you create a window. This is the widget that looks like a grid. This is where you can double click and add any widget. For this to work, I need to write custom code in the workspace. View needs to know where to add a placeholder so that you can add different childs. Most of the widget, and that's very time consuming. So there's very little support. Only like the basic widget have support for placeholder. That's something that in the future I plan to improve. Now that the core of the application is mostly done. So when you use a widget like Adwaita widget that had very little support for placeholders, what you can do is delete this window. What you can do is you can either use, in this case, properties and create widget directly in the properties, or, for example, now here we select the header bar. We know we can add widgets to the header bar. So if you want to add a button, you can choose this, and when you select a class, if you press hold Alt while pressing here, it will add a button directly, or you can select, right click and add object here, and it will add the object that you had selected. It will be added in the selected object. And that's a way to add children when there's no good support in the workspace. So, okay, we have our home button. Let's call it home. And icon name, let's use something that's already here using, let's go home symbolic. All right. So we said that we were gonna load, we're gonna do that by in code. We added the home button. Let's create a callback. So I'm gonna select the button, go to the signal tab, and here you get all the different signals for that object. Let's add one for on home click and save. All right, so we have our web view, it's called web view, and we have our button that's called home. So let's see if we can implement this. So let me maximize this, and we're gonna go here to the window class, and what we're gonna do is this is the label we removed. Now we have a web view, and we also have a home button. This is syntactic sugar from the excellent Python bindings that uses the template, and it just finds the reference of the object that's defined in your UI and assigns that to this class member automatically. So that's very convenient. Now let's define a function on home click, and what we want to do is self web view. Then we can access the web view, and we're gonna do a load URI planetgnome.org. That should work. And now, so we need to tell GTK that this is the callback we want to connect. We want to connect to this home on home click callback we define in the, and that's done by, we can use a decorator. So GTK comes with a decorator that's called gtk.template.callback, and you have to pass the name of the callback that you want to connect this function with. And that's it. If we run, this should work. If we add colon at the end of the definition there. Did we forget to save? On home, click. All right, we're having a problem here. And I don't understand why. It says that it's not finding. That was declared but not present in the template. All right. Is here. Did I misspell something? No, it's not misspelled. If anyone sees the error, please chime in. Planet GNOME window, that's the right type name. All right, what could it be? Second. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is what happened to do. We have RX1. For some reason, there's a typo here. I don't understand where that typo comes from. But if we look here, it says planner GNOME instead of planet GNOME. So we changed that. I don't know how that happened. So now it should say planet GNOME. Oh yeah, this is a. Oh, so thank you. Yes, that's also a good point. So we have window here. Obviously, I already added a web view to the UI, and GTK doesn't know how to create that. So we need to import WebKit here, WebKit, and we're gonna need to import GI and do GI dot require version. We're gonna say that for WebKit we need version 6. And this is one thing that currently we load WebKit, but the web view type is not registered yet, so we can, and so GTK Builder will not have access to the type, but we can do, we can use GObject. We can do GObject type ensure, and we have to pass the G type of the class that we want to make sure that it's instantiated, that it's registered. So WebKit, web view, with capital here, G type. All right, so now we have planet GNOME window. There's a planet there, and so now maybe we are lucky. No. All right, WebKit is with capital K. K here, K here. All right, so the WebKit should be there, and if we press home button, yes, I meant web view. Web view. All right. Do not create if only GL display. There's something in web view that is not working here. Could it be something in the manifest? Maybe we need to add as device DRI, so that should work. All right, let's move on. And we can run the application later, or Yeah. Let's put a printf here. Let's print. Let's go HTTPS. Print on click, and let's see if that's working. Yes, it's working, but there's something in WebKit that is not working, and by the end of the presentation, you'll know why. I'm testing too many things live at the same time. All right, so using templates. So, yeah, we are kind of short of time. Let's move on. So using template, let's gonna create a template from the header bar, add some more navigation buttons, and add a URL entry that we might left out because we won't have enough time. So let's open the project here, and let's create a template. So here we have the header bar. We're gonna create a new UI file. We're gonna call it header bar. So now we're gonna go back here, and we're gonna cut this here and paste it here. All right. There's a bug here. Let's just recreate the header bar. And AW header bar, we are gonna add here. And here, let's add the button again. Also home. And name, let's say that is win.home. And let's also add 2 more buttons. Here, and go next, symbolic, and let's call this back, or let's call this back, and call this forward. And so now we have a UI file that has as a top level a header bar. Let's call it planet GNOME header bar. And so if we see the definition of this file, we see that it has an object class, and it's the header bar with the ID planet GNOME header bar. If we click here in template, that will tell Kambalache to use this as a template. So here is serialized as a template. And the thing that we can do now, once you click that template, you can go to the other UI. Let's gonna remove this, and here we're gonna select Planet GNOME header bar, and we're gonna add a new one here. And select the layout as top. So that will put the header bar in the top of the toolbar view. All right, so now if we look at the definition of here, we'll see that we have the template GNOME window, and here in the child top, it's just using the class that we just defined as a template. Let's save here, and let's go back to the project. And so now here we need to add a new file, headerbar.python. We're gonna copy the source code from Windows and GNOME headerbar here. As a home, back and forward, pass on click. All right, let's, and header bar here. We don't need the WebKit. We are not using WebKit here. Another thing that I miss is the resource file. We need to add a new file here. So let's pick the header bar that we just created. And sure, why not? Let's strip XML blanks too. So now we have the header bar, the UI. It's already in the resources file, so that should be compiled and be available as this resource path. We added the header bar. We probably need to add this to the Meson file here. Header bar. And nothing in it. Okay, let's see what error we get here. All right, yes, we need to clean up window. We don't have this home anymore. Header bar. All right. All right, so we need to import from oh, right, okay. AW at Waita header bar is a final type, so it cannot be derived. It's what happened for me not trying everything from scratch. Okay, so header bar cannot, so let's make it derived from GTK box. And now do it. Let's go back here. So header bar, gonna remove the header bar from here so we can modify the template. This is not gonna be a template anymore. I'm gonna add a box as a parent. So it's gonna be the header bar. The box is gonna be the new template. Select template here. Toolbar view. Add the new header bar right here. Yes.
Juan, time is almost running out. Time is almost running out.
Everything. And yeah, this is how you use template in Kambalache. You create your UI, you set template, and once you set an it in other places, in other UI files to create your UI. So let's move on. And yes, that was the end of the presentation. The application didn't work because of EGL problem with WebKit, and now you'll see, I don't know if you have any questions, and then I'll show something else that will make sense why it wasn't working.
Okay, can you hear this? Does this work?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, any question? Or not?
Hi. How is Kambalache different from Libadwaita?
Okay, so Libat Waita is a library. It's a collection of different toolkits, different widgets made with GTK. So you have like different views, split views, dialogues, different components. And Kambalache is an application to use GTK and Libat Waita objects to create a UI file. So if we go back here, what you see here in the center, that's what I call the workspace. that's a live preview of the UI that you are creating, and it will be the same if instead of you will have to write all this to create something like this. So here you can, let's create a new one. For example, new UI. You can add, you create your window. That's what you did, and you will have to write this XML object window. Then inside your window, you can put it like a box. Inside the box, you can put a label. A label is widget defining GTK. Then you have a add white shortcut label that has an accelerator and some other properties that you can set here. And basically, it's a way to create the UI definition that will be then loaded by your application to construct the UI.
All right, thank you. There are no more questions in the room. Maybe you can keep an eye on the GUADEC Track 2 Matrix channel if there are any questions there. Thank you for the presentation.
So I have one more thing to show that 1 minute. So what could, nothing can possibly go wrong, right? With a live demo. So what I've been showing so far, what you are seeing in the share screen, it's a GTK4 application that I created using Kambalache to present the slides themselves. So here, this is in this project, you can see this is the talk that I'm giving, the project. And what I did is basically I have a slides. I have a GTK stack called slides, and inside it I have all the pages that were part of this application. So, for example, in this here, what you see in the background, it's a class, it's a widget I made last year to show shader toy shaders, pixel shaders. And as you can see here, I created different shade editor and shaders, and I basically mimic the API from shader toy, so I could run my shader inside the slides. And what I did basically, I created a small script that loads the UI file, finds the stack called slides, put it inside the window, add some shortcuts to go back and forward, and all for this year I added small webcam view using GStreamer so that I can share my camera together with the slides. And that's why WebKit wasn't working, because WebKit was running inside a compositor inside the application, and there's some bug somewhere there that the hardware acceleration is not working.
That is so
As usual, help wanted. Please join on. If you have any questions, join us in Matrix. Here is the GitLab page for Kambalache, and thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's really cool. Amazing. Thank you.